We're just
There we
getting.
go. Meeting is now streaming on YouTube. Awesome. Okay. Seversons, you got the kids to bed in record time.
No, they're awake.
Oh, okay.
They're in bed.
I think we got one with an iPad, but hey.
Yeah.
Seversons, you got the kids to bed. Oh, sorry. I need to mute my. Oh, that might not have been me.
That was me.
Okay, we'll blame you.
Hi, Shannon and Jason.
Hi.
Hi.
I never know if I.
You guys look good for 9 p.m.
Right? Come on.
Hey, we're up.
That's your bedtime, isn't it?
You know, seriously, our kids were making fun of us. And what did Hunter say to you today?
He said they do it at 9 p.m. Are you gonna need a nap? Thanks, son.
Yeah. Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Totally.
So
It is rude.
I do. I'm like so tired by that. I'm crossing my eyes.
Thanks, Linnea. Thanks for
Yeah.
making us feel better.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh yeah, I know you're not alone.
You're just sitting out on your porch or what?
Yeah,
Yeah, on our porch. Yeah.
just on the swinging bench.
Oh, nice. That's cool.
Mira kicked us out.
Yeah.
Uh,
Get used to it.
no,
It's just so nice out.
it is so nice. Yeah.
It was warm today.
Yeah, it was.
This is great content. I'm sure a lot of people are tuning in.
I mean, just the numbers are through the roof right now.
Is
No
it
worries.
like also we are being outside? Is that annoying if cars drive by?
Don't even worry about it.
Don't notice it. Okay,
You just mute us the whole time.
that's
It's
true.
probably for the better.
Okay, we got a couple shares here. We should be good to go. Oh, we got a few people on. Okay, they'll hop on. So I think Tucker, you were just introduced to Jason and Shannon, and the Tons are pastors out at River of Life, and you guys just had an anniversary out there, right?
Yep. We just celebrated, or we didn't really celebrate, but we had 12 years on Sunday. So,
Oh,
Whoa.
awesome.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Amazing.
Man, just love what you guys are doing out there at River. I was just trying to think back today. So Jason, your dad was my pastor growing up.
yeah.
So how long have you guys been in Missoula?
So my parents moved to CLC in 1989. And then he pastored there for 16 years
Mhm.
Wow.
and then retired from there. And a couple of years after that's when Shannon and I came to Missoula in 2000. I had moved to Green Bay to youth pastor and then came to be the youth pastors at CLC in 99, end of 99. So
Yes. 20 years now.
Wow.
Wow.
So you guys have been doing ministry in Missoula for the last 20 years.
yeah.
Remarkable. Incredible.
That's
That's awesome. And 12 of those lead pastoring.
Yes. Yep.
Incredible. There's a lot of incredible preachers out there, but there's just no one with a voice like your dad's. There's
Seriously.
just
Yes. Yeah, we always have him get into the Christmas story at River, and
Oh.
it's always a hit.
Oh.
People are like, "You didn't get his voice." No, I did not get his voice.
You know, he used to be a singer.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So he has records that people will very nicely make vintage record clocks
Yes. He's
and
got
give
lots.
to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Aw.
yeah.
Yeah, Canadian Baritone in Sacred Concert is the name of one of his albums.
Wait.
Okay.
You gotta say
gotta
that
hear
one more
this.
time.
Wait, like his album.
Canadian Baritone in Sacred Concert. That's the name of one of his records.
He's-
course.
I love it.
Of course.
That's such an awesome.
Incredible. And now your parents are involved in serving at the church that you lead.
Yep, for sure. My mom is very involved. My dad, as he's getting a little older, is a little bit less involved, but he comes
Yeah.
all the time. He comes to all the services. I get to hear him say amen loudly in that nice deep voice.
Oh,
That's a plus.
what a dream. Oh,
Right.
And his mom is like one of our best greeters.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
she runs our hospitality, but she's amazing.
Yeah. She remembers people's names like nobody's business.
Yeah.
She'll meet you and remember you a month later what your name was. And
Wow.
I struggle with that.
We
so.
don't have that gift.
No, we do not.
That's too much. I love it.
Awesome.
Well, we're just super grateful that you guys are hopping on with us tonight.
It's
We've
fun.
been doing these Wednesday nights, just mostly conversation. There's a lot of teaching content out there, but just the chance for our church to just hear conversation about. We usually try to do something a little lighthearted and then something a little more serious. So we're just gonna chat for a while. So there's so much we could dig into to get to know you guys more. We're probably not gonna take that time tonight. But last time we got on one of these roundtables, the conversation we had was we were sharing our first date stories. And I didn't even prep you guys for this, so I'm not sure if we write this or not. But maybe just the one way we can get to know you outside of ministry is we would love to hear first date.
First date with each other? Is that what you're wanting to
Yes,
hear?
yes, yes. Go ahead.
Just making sure.
It might not have been that
That was very
memorable.
memorable.
You're already digging yourself a hole there, buddy.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. If you get a chance to go listen to the last one where we shared, Spencer has this bit about him looking like Clifford the Big Red Dog. It just destroyed me. It was so funny. But you go listen to that later. Let's hear your first date together.
so I guess the more interesting part of that story would be that Shannon and I started dating after I had been engaged to someone else, and she was dating my roommate.
Oh, wow.
Boom.
So you can tell the story. I just led with the headline.
No, it wasn't anything like that, really. I mean,
No,
that's
it
how we
sounds a lot.
officially met. So it sounds really, racy, and all the kids loved it over the years. So you just lead with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't. I broke off that engagement not because of her. It was for other reasons. And then it was not too many months after that we started hanging out in the same circle, and that's when we started to date.
Yeah. I don't know if I remember our first date. You?
Well, I'm glad that you led with you don't remember our first date, because I was just trying to think if I remembered what our actual first date was. So now you all were witnesses that she said she didn't remember it
Yes.
first. So.
We've been married for 23 years.
Wow.
Married for 23.
Married for 23. So as you can imagine, that was a long time ago. So I don't know.
Well, we were hanging out a lot, so I don't know what our actual
Yeah.
first date
Official,
was.
yeah.
So we'll just blame it on that. But,
Yeah.
but the more interesting part of that
That's
story
good.
is that I had been engaged and she was dating my roommate. So we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
Guys, so let's have you guys cast a vote here for us. Let's just come up with this hypothetical situation.
Oh, no.
There's a young college guy who is attracted to a young college girl that he goes to Bible school with, asks, hey, do you want to go to the mall with me? They go to the mall. They get
On her
dinner.
birthday.
On her birthday.
On her birthday. He
Oh.
purchases the meal.
Okay.
They hang out for a while, the two of them, go
Wait,
back to
what
campus.
if the comment was made, oh, you have nothing else to do? Just add that in there.
Oh, to the hypothetical.
Hypothetical.
Let's make it it's my story.
Kyle, it's Kyle's hypothetical. What?
Hypothetically.
Okay.
Would you call that a date? If it was never, do you want to go out with me? Or let's go out to dinner on a date together. It was just this situation that has lots of dating connotations. Is it a date or not?
My vote on that if he paid for her, I think that's a date.
No.
Thank you.
So the
Thank
tiebreaker
you.
is not a tiebreaker because it's a split vote. I think.
Because then potentially we've been dating this whole time other people.
What's happening?
You pay for other
Whoa,
people's
you're
meals.
buying lots of people
Oh.
meals. What's happening?
Why is our eating out budget like
Taking all kinds of guys
$700
out
a
on their
month?
birthday and buying them dinner. I didn't even know. We're gonna need to have a
Dating
dinner.
other people.
Oh.
It's just got awkward.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't think it would be a date because it didn't seem official. I think it has to seem official. Like you have to ask or whatever. Because
Now, did he ask her to go to dinner on her birthday? Is that
no, he assumed, right?
Robbie, would you jump into my hypothetical here for a
Yeah.
second?
I think
Yes.
I think what Kyle's thinking about in his hypothetical is this guy. If I were to put myself in his shoes, this guy, he really liked this girl and maybe was a little bit shy. So,
So it was unclear.
are you putting yourself in the girl's shoes?
Hypothetically.
No.
To the girl made it seem like, oh, this is just two friends hanging out. That's how I'm gonna read this.
Yeah. You don't want to.
I've just never had a friend like that, I guess, but
That you hang out with?
a girlfriend like that, yeah.
Well, whatever.
It probably depends on how, because I was always the Robbie. Like, well, I mean,
Wait, this is a hypothetical situation. Oh, your hypothetical guy's name is Robbie? Got it.
What if she paid for my meals, but she would take my wallet and use my credit card? Gets real twisted.
I'm just confused because Tons, you guys said that you hung out a bunch and there was never like an official first date, or you can't remember it.
Mhm.
So when did it go from just hanging out to date? You don't know.
But at some point, to me, it feels like it's more than just friends when even there's like a comment like, hey, I'm interested in you.
Yeah.
Or like something to give you the clue that it's more than just friends. I guess that's what I feel like.
Yeah.
That's
in this-
exactly what happened in our situation.
Yeah.
He sat me down to just basically say, hey,
Yeah.
I don't want this to just look like we're just friends.
Right.
But how do you feel about it? So then there was the
that sounds
official
more
talk.
official. Yeah.
Well, to add to that a little bit, her ex-boyfriend, my ex-roommate, had basically told me that she wasn't interested in me and that she was just a flirt, and had told her that I was in no place to be dating anybody and I was disinterested in dating, so she shouldn't be pursuing anything.
He's
So
a really good
he's a
friend
good friend of
ours.
ours now, still to this day.
So
That's when I had to sit down and say, hey, I'm not sure what's going on, but let's get on the same page if we're
Yeah.
whatever. So that was probably when we officially started dating.
yeah.
But I don't remember what the first date was after that.
In this hypothetical story, did that happen? Did that ever happen? Did you guys have that, or the hypothetical? I don't even know what to say.
No, our story was real. As far as
Yeah, yours was. What about the
Yeah, what
other
about the hypothetical?
hypothetical question?
Oh, I would say hypothetically, then the first date was September 1st, 2004, 3 maybe.
Because
yes.
there was a what is it that called DTR, defined whatever. There was one of those.
Yeah, on a hammock.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Sounds like you should have had the DTR
real
before
close.
that. But
We were, yeah, it was.
Hey, I just was
Anytime.
thinking that we should.
Well, you're coming on a hammock is when you guys decided that you were going to date. What's happening?
There are many ways to sit on
We
a
better
hammock.
define this thing quick.
we better get
So what is this? We went to the mall. This is hypothetical, all of it, anyway.
A guy named Robbie, hypothetically.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
You
Well,
got
we
it.
may have to solve the Severson first
That's
date
all right.
another day.
Oh, we were good till you brought it up. Thank you.
Hey, I was seeing if we could be helpful, but
That's awesome.
oh well.
Open a new can.
So we're going to talk a little bit about, so this last Sunday I used Jinko jeans as an illustration of my message, which were those just massively baggy, huge pockets. I was
But
talking,
if it even rained or dew, they'd be wet this far up the pant,
Yes.
just instantly wet, the whole pant leg.
yeah.
So gross.
I was never allowed to wear them. We were talking to Dave Nunnally, who was on with us last time, and he did have Jinko jeans, but he said you had to also have your wallet on a chain if you had
Yeah.
Jinko jeans. So this was like, they came together. Because the pocket was so long, you couldn't get to the bottom of it to grab the
Wow.
wallet. You had to have a chain to bring it up.
I also feel like I remember a lot of people wearing those purposefully below their butt, guys.
Yes.
And so literally you would see half of their boxers and then their jeans. And that was like the style.
So cool. Yeah.
So cool.
And,
So cool.
and everyone in my middle school played hacky sack that wore Jinko jeans.
Nice.
How
Well,
did you,
that's
how
pretty
did you
hard.
access
Back in
those?
It's actually quite a
Hacky
talent,
sack.
probably.
What?
That'd be quite the talent, actually, to maneuver that much material and still kick the thing around.
I would be, if I'm totally honest, I was terrified of the people that wore Jinko jeans.
So that answers the question of, did you ever own any? Just not
No.
even a chance.
Hmm.
Jason, were you into Jinkos? Jason, did you ever wear Jinko jeans?
Oh, sorry. Our
Ours
internet froze. We heard.
Oh.
Did you own any? I wasn't sure who you're talking to.
No,
No, I was youth pastoring when those were in. So, yeah, that's
Yeah.
wasn't a style.
that one.
So that introduces the thought of what fashion trends were we ever into that maybe land on the more embarrassing side today? And I don't know if you guys
She's
share-
chomping at the bit
No,
over here
no,
to
I'm
say
not.
something.
We're in a whole different age than you guys. So I had to Google Jenko jeans because I was
Okay.
like, I don't even know what that is. And then when I pulled it up, I'm like, oh my goodness. But all of the trends that I hated are back.
Not bad.
That's
Yeah.
Okay, give us some examples.
Well, I can't stand the mom jeans.
Oh, okay.
I can't stand it. And back then, after they went out, because that was huge in the 80s and early 90s, everybody said, no matter how fit you looked or how good you looked, you still looked like not so good in them. It was one of those things where we would say, we'll never do that again.
No, we never
And now it's coming back and you're like,
Oh.
oh no. To me, I'm always like, they still don't look good and they're still wearing them.
Linnea's wearing some right now.
I love me
That
some
totally
mom-
angers me.
I love me some mom jeans.
And you rock them, I'm sure.
What happened? Those things that we say will never. Wait, what else? I want to know.
So I rocked quite a mullet back in my day.
Oh, yes.
Current hairstyle, but
You got a little, you probably have it as your screensaver. Can you like show us?
it was put on
It's on my
Facebook.
Facebook.
It was put on
page.
Facebook a couple weeks ago.
I did
It
see
was
that.
curly. I have curly.
Wait.
hair, so it was a curly.
Okay, who's gonna find it and
I'm
share
gonna do
it?
some
Yeah.
searching.
Oh, great.
Gonna find it.
Oh, man. Well, I'm glad I gave you all homework. You're all looking down.
I said that's pre-knowing me because I don't think we'd be together today
Wow.
if I had met him, potentially.
Ouch.
And he had the mullet.
Ouch.
That's
So exciting.
good.
Yes, so that's great.
They're all searching.
They're all searching.
We're looking for it.
So last Monday, I posted a contribute to the seniors this year. And so I did my senior picture and Jason's senior because he has
Which
the
she's
mullet.
hot in her senior picture, and I have a mullet. So
And
it's-
your mullet. And your skin color.
Oh, I got it.
Wow.
Curly,
Show us, show us.
curly. Get a full head of curly mullet.
Jason. Okay, bring it.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. That's nice.
so glad this made your little video. That's
Oh man.
Do you guys remember
That
the
is
show
good.
90210
Wow.
back in
Okay.
the day? He could have been that guy.
Naturally curly, or is that perm?
oh, it was naturally curly.
Okay,
Oh,
That's
That is-
awesome.
I love it.
that's impressive.
Well, you're welcome, you guys.
Oh, that's so good.
That is so good. I rocked the mullet for a while, but it was kind of like knowing it wasn't actually cool.
Yeah.
But I was getting away with it.
And we were dating.
It worked. Okay.
It didn't work. I was already committed.
Okay, this is so great. I had Danny look through some pictures today
Oh,
to
God.
help us find some of these. We got a few to share, but since we're on the mullet right now, mullet, and I also played that semi-pro football. So here is a combo of the two. Oh wait, that's the wrong one. This one. That's the wrong one. That's also gold. I thought I was gonna save that for later. I don't know why. Okay, you guys, this is gonna be worth it. Just hold on here for a second.
I don't know.
I think it was just pulling up whatever was the most.
Oh, it's so bad.
Same green butt.
Yeah. So this was from the back, but just check this out. We're gonna turn
Oh, it's so bad.
around the air. Oh man.
Oh,
Wow.
Oh, is it up there?
Oh my gosh.
That is so awesome.
oh, Kyle, that is
Danny,
amazing.
you were dating that.
You were dating that.
Your work.
That's pretty
So, Kyle, if you ever need proof that there's a God who loves you, like,
Yeah.
that is it right there. That's all I'm gonna say to you.
There's braces and the soul patch under there too. So
Oh, but I
Oh.
love the sunglasses you're wearing, Danny.
I know
Those were the trend.
Yeah, those are trendy.
The sunglasses that like didn't do anything.
Oh my word.
Oh my gosh.
oh, that
I think I
is
gotta
so
go wash
funny.
my eyes out a little bit.
Jenna asked, "What is on your chin, Kyle?"
Oh, wait.
I wish I would have known we were sharing because I have some good pictures of Spencer from youth group.
Oh, you know what? I went in and tried to find some today.
Oh, I'll send them to Kyle for your next week's episode.
Okay, yeah, do that. I was about as wide as I was tall, I think.
I was,
You weren't, Spencer. You weren't at
I
all.
was prepping for this. Spence, we need an explanation.
Oh yeah.
That's pretty
Hey,
Did you guys have that on hand?
everything's in style, but I'm not sure about what the heck is going on with the hands. Like
I really need to know what this
that was when I was that was when I thought I was a rap artist. I was down at Hillsong, and everybody was so hipster, and so I thought maybe I'll try the rap scene. But yeah, clearly not my calling.
That is amazing. What do I do with my hands for this photo?
Yeah, I know what would be cool.
How's this look, guys?
Hey,
Okay, now.
all the youths are going to be doing that around Missoula. You just wait. Gonna be the new TikTok or something.
Oh, I love it. Okay, what other trends did you guys give into back in the day?
I thought it was really cool to wear like Celine Dion shirts or something. But, like, I don't know. I'll look back on this video 10 years from now and really just
So
be
true.
disgusted by myself.
No,
So,
Oh,
that's
that's too
good.
much.
Oh.
You guys got anything, Seversons?
The problem is I'm not sure they were trends. They were just things I tried.
Okay.
But it was all with my hair.
Okay.
Did you guys do the bowl cut? Anybody?
Oh, a little bit.
Yeah. Which like looking
Yeah.
that was definitely
Danny? What? Danny? Oh yeah. You tried that, Danny?
wait, do you have a picture of that?
Yeah,
Where's the picture of that?
Really little. That wasn't me experimenting. That was my
Oh.
mother.
Oh my gosh.
I want to see Danny with the bowl cut.
Oh,
I had I didn't like it.
that was
Robbie
that
with
was trendy.
frosted tips. Did you have frosted
Frosted
tips,
tip.
Robbie?
Oh yeah, that was cool.
I think I did that. My mom's like one of her best friends was a hairdresser, and one day I asked if she ever did perms for guys. And she said, "Oh yeah, my husband Roger, it's a natural wave. It's like a number 4, something like that." I said, "Wow, I think I'd like to do that." And I was going into the 8th grade and had glasses and braces, and I didn't have braces, but she said, "Okay, grow your hair out over the summer and I'll give you a natural wave." So I did it. But the problem is when it got wet, which for like a middle school boy is pretty much all the time, it just like was the tightest curls. And I was in the 8th grade. So I had a perm I got a perm, and I wanted it. Nobody forced me into it, but it was a bad decision. It wasn't. Nobody really processed that one with me before I did it. They just kind of all were like, "Yeah, cool if you want it." So
I like that.
Did you
Small
like it?
fraternity.
Is there photo evidence anywhere?
I bet my mom could find some. I didn't want to ask for it, but
Hey, Mom.
yeah. I remember, so I was working on a farm that summer. Everyone in my church was a farmer. And the day after I got the perm, which like a farmer isn't a person you want to tell that you got a perm to. So I'm sitting on this thing called a bean bar. There's 4 chairs and you're just spraying pesticide on weeds, but you can't hit the beans. So it's pretty technical work, but it started to rain and my hair just like froed up. And the farmer was like, "What is going on?" So that was like the beginning of, I should have known. I probably should have just shaved my hair off. But then I ended up that fall going into my 8th grade year with a perm. So
That's amazing.
That is so good.
yeah,
I
it
do
was
have
good.
tears.
Yeah,
Crying.
that's a character builder for sure. If you really want to help your kids grow, you perm their hair. Boys especially.
Wow.
Spencer.
Mine would be quite impressive right now. Yeah.
Your
I
hair
did that.
perm.
I'd say
Yeah.
go for the natural wave.
Number 4.
is on
Number 4. I'll remember that.
It was, yeah. What's funny too is my dad was a school teacher. He's a farm kid. He doesn't say a lot. And he never said, "Robbie, don't do that." And he just, my mom took me to her hairdresser and they permed my hair.
That's amazing.
That's incredible.
I'm not mad. It came up at UL a couple times. But
Bitter wound.
The perm. The year of the
Talking
perm.
to a chair.
it was the year that was on my course.
Into the chair, yeah.
Oh, that's so funny. Tucker, what you got, man?
You know, I wasn't a huge trend guy. I think that the 2 things that I am guilty of is I definitely did frosted tips.
Yes.
Oh.
That was cool. That was cool.
Any pics?
It's like this,
I don't-
like,
Yeah, you know, it was pretty painful. Like the little hook thing that you pulled your hair through the cap.
Oh, that.
Not
Yeah.
comfortable, not a comfortable process. I bleached my hair. We
Full
thought it
on?
would be funny. Yep, full on bleach. We thought it would be funny before divisional basketball tournaments. To our coach was just like a salt of the earth guy, like through and through. And we thought it would be funny to like pull a prank on him, which turned out all of our hair was orange. So who's really the joke on it? But we're like 30 miles outside of Havre and we all take our beanies off and we all have like this just disgustingly orange hair. And we're like, "Oh, suck it, coach." And it was like, wait a second. We are on the losing end of this deal right now. But the other one I did is I was 17. I got my ear pierced.
Nice.
Yes.
Really manly. Called my dad because I was 17 and I had to sign a waiver. "Hey, Dad, I want to get my ear pierced." He's like, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, what do I need to do?" I said, "Come meet me up at Claire's." 17 years old, sitting in the chair at Claire's in the mall in Havre and just get one ear pierced. And there you have, like, the week before my senior pictures. So on all my senior pictures, I have just this pathetic little ear stud in.
Yes.
Just one. Yep, just the left ear.
That's amazing.
I think that's probably the worst thing. The worst
I
trend.
love that.
Real
How long
respect
did
for my dad though. He just was like, "Okay, sure,
you just did it?
great." Here's
How long did you keep the earring in?
Well, I stole one of my girlfriend's earrings at the time because after I graduated from the stud, I wanted it to look really cool, so I put like a little diamond thing in there. Of
Yeah, you
course.
did.
And that lasted probably 2-3 weeks. I took it out for basketball practice and forgot it, and then it closed up in a week. It was
That was
over.
a good run, though.
Yeah, for 3 weeks.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Oh yeah. I don't think so. I think I've learned the lesson. I don't know if we'll ever do that one again.
Tucker, you're preaching soon. What if you just showed up and
Just showed up with just one though, not both ears, just the left one.
They
Big
make
diamond
magnetic ones.
Oh yeah.
Flip on.
Click it on.
Just
Or what are
a,
those little
a
stickers?
pink pineapple like leather one.
Like,
Big one.
feather.
I'll pierce my ear, Kyle, if you pierce your lip again.
Yes.
Oh.
That's how I got it pierced in the first place. Was Danny here was getting her lip pierced and wouldn't do it till I went first, and had no intention of getting a lip piercing.
And that can't happen if Jason doesn't bring back the mullet. So
All interconnected.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love it. Oh,
That's a good-
awesome. Any other trends we need to get through here? I mean, there was like corduroys. There was
Corduroy overalls.
Oh yeah.
so cool.
Oh, I did. I was like looking up trends from when I was in high school because I was trying to remember. I remember, and I saw a list, and I was like, oh yeah, like the velour track suits.
Oh,
Do you remember those?
Juicy.
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 Yes.
Bad.
I definitely rememred that.
What about
Um,
gauchos? Remember your
Oh, I
gauchos?
totally remember gauchos. Those were awesome.
For
Yeah.
gauchos.
It's funny, actually, I looked that up and they're like coming back in. It's weird, a lot of things, even
No.
like flare jeans, that
Yeah.
was really cool. And I feel like they're kind of starting to come back in. Everything was low rise, like really low rise. Yeah, like people bend over and you see their cracks, you know? I mean, really, that's how low rise it was.
That's
I
bad.
just got into skinny jeans and now they're getting wider again. It's
I know.
can't keep up.
Oh, I love it. We got parachute pants as a comment. We got WWJD bracelets.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
Oh man, what about?
I-
Go
I
ahead.
had the hair like this, like these little,
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Wisps.
and then like the butterfly clips. Did you ever have those? Well,
Tucker's on.
Tucker's like,
Yeah.
like
No, but I-
you put a
I did.
But,
I
like-
did the hair with like I think of Amanda Bynes. Oh, I just want to take
Yes.
it out of her face.
One-
Like
the
you know,
hair. Oh,
I just like down grease to her
I
cheek.
think
Tucker's
It's
not
so
there on the butterfly
cute.
clips. They had to look at something while he was waiting for his dad to come sign.
You know, Clarence is a pretty incredible story. Yeah.
I just remember. I remember in sometime in middle school, like being really. The only thing I can think of is having these giant Element like skater shoes.
oh,
I was like a little girl, but they're probably like, they looked like clogs on my feet, but they were like with the big Element sign on
Sure.
the side.
Remember
That's all I can think of. And I thought it was
Oh.
so cool.
I love it.
You
So
guys
many.
ever, I guess maybe Spencer and Linnea, you would have been it. But you remember those rollies or whatever, those shoes that had
Oh, Heelys?
Heelys?
they're still cool.
Oh,
Kyle had
man.
some, didn't God,
still
Did you
does
actually-
have some.
he still
They're
has.
kind of,
No,
they're
you
kind
still
of coming
have them?
back. Yeah, I don't know about for adults.
Do they fit?
They're rainbow.
Wait, what?
Wait.
So cool.
Why do you have
Finally
that?
bought them together.
I think it was the greatest Master's Appreciation gift of all time. That was gifted from the Nunnallys, a pair of Heelys.
Yeah.
And
Do
David
you like rock those like around the neighborhood or?
Yeah, Albertson's parking lot was ideal. Grocery shopping with your wife
The worst.
was so much fun.
Hey, we're doing drive up church this week. Could you come and serve like beverages on your
Oh,
TV?
Yes.
Exactly.
That would be amazing.
Dude, yeah, Hoagieville went out, right? So, are you guys doing a drive-in?
Yeah, we're
Tell
doing
us about that drive-in.
That's cool.
So
Give us some
cool.
details. What's that gonna look like?
What's drive-in church gonna look like?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very good question. Figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to we did it RSVP, so we don't have that much parking in our lot. So we had to number spots, and then people can RSVP to come to either Saturday night or Sunday morning. We have the big garage doors on our sanctuary, so we're just rolling those up, and the stage will be inside there, and we'll have a little stage piece outside. And then we're doing a FM, well, either an AM or an FM transmitter. We have an AM that we're trying to get to work, but otherwise we're gonna have an FM transmitter so people can listen on their radio. We'll also put speakers out there so people aren't that worried about it. They can at least roll down their windows.
That's awesome.
And listen that way. So we'll see. It's a lot more work than we thought it was gonna be, but we'll see how it goes.
That's awesome. Hey, that's a good transition to go to some more serious stuff. I want to talk a little bit about church and just how much, just that, I mean, instantly all churches trying to figure out how do we adapt. And we've had a lot of conversations just about what that means as parents or with our kids or just dealing with some loss. But I would just like to take a few minutes talking about just the church. For one, it's been challenging. For another, it's been really cool. And especially to be able to see how different churches with different personalities and gift sets and visions are kind of just stepping up and doing some creative stuff. And kind of to preface a couple of questions, essentially questions being like, what is really good about this that we see the church doing? And maybe the next question being, what if this is going to sustain? Like what were some changes that this forced us into that aren't just adapt for a season, but like this is something we've learned, we've grown in, we've been stretched in, that is healthy and it's going to last. I want to read real quick. I just finished this book called The Gathered and Scattered Church, and I finished it like right before the pandemic, which was kind of a good timing because it's a lot of the gathering of the church is kind of second nature to us. But it's really amazing, and it just walks through how the early church was both. You can have your preferences of the smaller house church and the larger mega church and anything in between, but really the early church was both. It was thousands of people congregated, and it was small house gatherings, and it's all the church. And so it was a really good book just talking about how do we both love and value the gathering and also the scattering, even looking at that there are seasons of gathering, there's seasons of scattering, and how do you disciple new believers to not just rely on you, but how do we transition from gather to scatter? It really good book. Challenged me in a lot of ways, but there's this one part that I just want to share really quick that I feel like what has happened with the corporate gathering shutdown makes this all the more real. But this is towards the end of the book, so they've explained a lot of the gathering and scattering, and the question that they pose as the title of this chapter is to gather or not to gather. Is that the question? And so it's just talking about some of the gathering not really fulfilling the role of the church. And there's two authors, but they write this. They say it's a refreshing challenge to consider the words of Isaiah the prophet as he expressed God's disdain for the thoughtless religious services of the Israelites. And then it quotes a bit of a lengthy chunk here in Isaiah chapter 1, but essentially God's saying, the multitude of your sacrifices, what are they to me, says the Lord? I've more than enough burnt offerings of rams and fattened animals. I have no pleasure in the blood of bulls, the lambs and goats. When you come to appear before me, who has asked this of you? Stop bringing meaningless offerings. Your incense is detestable to me. And he just kind of goes on and on about some of these corporate gatherings, this coming to the church, this routine that isn't really what God is after. He finishes here in Isaiah 1, like, what I want you to do is seek justice, encourage the oppressed, defend the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow. And then it quotes a section of the prophet Amos. And God says this through the prophet Amos. He says, I despise your religious feasts. I cannot stand your assemblies. Even though you bring me burnt offerings and grain offerings, I won't accept them. Though you bring me choice fellowship offerings, I'll have no regard for them. Away with the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps, but let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never failing stream. And so for a second time, God has really strong language about how the gathering that he did ordain, he was about his people coming together and worshiping, but it had grown to such this routine and self-serving activity that God now has some really strong language against the gathering of his people. And so the authors, they pose this. They say, so what do we do with these words? Rarely do we hear God speak so emotionally and so directly towards his people. And why? because they were just going through the motions of meeting for sacrifices, prayer, worship, and community. And then he kind of gives his own paraphrase, and I'll stop reading from this after this, but his own paraphrase, the author's own paraphrase of what we just read, is God saying this: stop playing church. Don't bother me with your long worship services, prayer gatherings, and self-help classes. I'm not that into your singing, and you're mostly doing it for yourself anyway. You've created a God who lets you show up for a weekly service, but you seldom serve anyone. If you want to get into what I'm into, go help someone. And you who lead, what are you leading? Are you the ones who are afraid to call people to the real deal? I'd love to hear the worship and see the sacrifices if they really meant much, cost much, or were integrated with lives that are transformed. I don't mind my people meeting together, but make it count for something bigger. Ouch. And to be fair, the whole of the book is not anti-gathering, that God doesn't want your church to get together. But it's just this, just approaching the question of like, what are we really doing when we get together? Is it self-serving? And God has some pretty strong language when we're not actually taking our community, the growth and the worship and what we're learning, and actually loving our community and serving our community. And now we see what's happened, and it's like all of a sudden we flip this major switch. And unfortunately, as amazing of a transition of us loving our city and our church and our church serving our neighbors, that's actually what we should have been doing all along. That it shouldn't have actually looked that dramatic of a shift. And I know I speak that for me, and I love to see what the church is doing, but posing kind of those thoughts, I would just love to open up the question, the discussion, and we've got almost 20 minutes now. What are we seeing, even in regards to this, of a shift in the church from unhealthy to healthy? And not to pick on the church and not to belittle what it has looked like, but focusing on how has this kind of pushed us into something more healthy and more in line with God, what God wants us to be. And then the follow-up is how do we make that last as Montana begins to open? So I don't know if anyone has initial thoughts. What?
I said bomb.
I don't know if anyone has some thoughts to jump in on that. We won't make Jason and Shannon go first, but I really would love to hear the thoughts, because you've been so incredible at serving the community. I love the different churches and callings of churches in Missoula, but you guys have been for 12 years meeting needs in such a tangible, beautiful way. I really look to you guys as, I mean, whether it's groceries, it's food, it's community events, you guys have been the top in our community of how to love and serve people. So I really want to get to your thoughts and opinions, but we won't make you go first. What do you guys think? I'm going to drink some milk.
You can have your snack.
Carton. Kids carton.
It's interesting, Kyle, that the metric for effectiveness is big building, big budget, lots of people.
Yeah.
I was looking for another big, like big butts or lots of butts. What?
Pants, big jeans.
What's really interesting to me is there's still the potential for that to happen during this time, where it's how's our budget, how many people are viewing us online. Like there's still a possibility that the church isn't getting it. And I don't even know how that fits with what you said, as much as just as you were talking, I was just thinking, if our metric doesn't change, then our philosophy won't change. And if the metric is how many people and how much money, then service just isn't sexy, and there isn't a lot of money or a lot of people that come along with something like that. So the question has to be like, are we about coming and dying, like that real life happens when I die to myself? That's the invitation into something so much better? Or is the metric, is our budget okay, and how many people are watching us online? That definitely doesn't address what you said, more just to add to it.
I feel that same way. I think there's there's absolutely a reality that some of this is making us look at that understanding that you're talking about, Kyle, of like being the church, right? As if there was ever a time where we were supposed to move away from that understanding of what being the church was. But I also think that there's a risk, or just in the sense that we're making it more easily accessible now than ever. Like, turn on your TV at home and keep sitting on your couch and just tune in. And again, some of that's natural, some of that's what we have to do. But I think, and I'm not moving away from your question, I just think that even the physical gathering of being somewhere, the act of setting up chairs or making coffee is can be, maybe it isn't always, but can be even so much more involvement than what we're seeing right now. And that is, on one hand, I think it's an incredible opportunity that more and more people could tune in and hear the gospel and kind of enter in that proverbial front door in ways that they might not other ways. But on the other side of that, how many people have fallen out of the routine? How many people aren't engaging in being the church now more than ever, because it's easily excusable. It's easy to kind of justify that. And you're right. There's a reality check that I think for the church, that it's good to say, like, okay, we're being shook, and okay, yeah, let's not forget that we are the church and not the building. And then at the same time, I think there's also a reality that we are making church as consumer friendly as it perhaps has ever been ever. Mm-hmm. And it becomes a channel on a TV screen. And I think that there's danger in that as well. Not like, oh man, I'm so scared danger, but just like the pivot to online in your home, on your computer, on your TV screen, whenever you want it, however you want to access it, has almost given up, even though it might not have seemed in our normal that there's any sacrifice happening to show up at 8 a.m. or 4 p.m. or whatever the service time is. Now it's even removed that element of inconvenience. And it's, hey, you want to check out church, do it whenever you want, in however fashion you want, with whomever you want. And there's almost an even greater sense of being disconnected. Mm-hmm. So as I think about some of those things, I think that is as much on my mind as is the reality of we corporately as the people are the church. But I just can't seem to separate those perspectives, like you were saying, Rob, of just like the metric being what it is. Like, yeah, certainly we might have more opportunity to reach people, and maybe our metric is 1,000, where in real life it's 100, but how many of those 1,000 have like real local churches to plant into, and a community and believers to walk alongside them? And that's just kind of instantly where my heart and my mind go in that conversation.
Yeah. So I'm totally cool if we kind of turn the conversation that way for a second. Do you have any thoughts beyond that on like, so what do we do about this? Churches are opening back up. We're now making plans, not how do we go online, but now churches are making plans. How do we safely get back together? Have you gone down the trail any further of, okay, now that we're able to start figuring out how do we get engagement back into community? Do you have any thoughts there? How do we go against the challenge that you just presented?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what a solution is necessarily, but I don't know if it's any different than, certainly because of the large access that has been provided, and I think is largely good. You know, I think that there's maybe a new element of that's the new normal, but largely I don't think it's anything new that we're facing. I mean, even 6 months ago, oh, someone just bounced out of here.
See you, Seversons.
Yeah, like even 6 months ago, it wasn't as if there was a shortage of needs or things knocking at people's door for their attention. Right. But I just, to not change or pivot, I think just the only thing that comes to my mind is to continue to remain strong and firm in what we as the church are called to do and how we as the church are called to function. I think there's a great opportunity within that, as we've been starved and depraved of physical relationship and connection, that the body just naturally would exhibit. in a way that is more attractive perhaps now than ever, in what it would represent that way. But I don't have any like striking things that jump off the page at me in terms of a remedy for those things.
Yeah. It feels like an interesting week right now we've been working so hard on how do we connect well online, and now it's how do we almost backtrack? How do we get people to connect again once we're open? Jason and Shannon, I'd love to give you guys a few minutes here. I guess we'll just start with what just comes to your mind. What are your thoughts on the whole subject matter? And we can get more specific.
Well, I think just listening to what you guys are saying, I think that for me, purpose, and even, Kyle, you and I and Spencer sat down and had a conversation as you guys were talking about planting. And I think we even had this conversation about purpose, about knowing what your purpose is. And if the purpose is for people just to gather, to worship, to hear the word, like especially in this season, I was telling somebody the other day, our people get online and they have so many choices
that
are way better. There's a lot better preachers than me. There's a lot, more polished worship. There's all of that stuff. And so it's like, how do you, almost compete, not that you're competing, but to me, it comes back to that idea of purpose. And for when you say, River, you guys serve, we knew from the very beginning, like I was done with being in ministry before we planted River, because I was tired of the infighting in church. I was tired of people making big deals about stupid little ideas and fighting with each other and wait till the next membership meeting when, whatever, this is going to get voted on and all that nonsense. I was so sick of the politics. And so I left ministry thinking, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Went to the Dream Center, saw church done differently than I'd ever seen before. When God called us to plant in East Missoula, we knew we were going to a place where nobody wanted to plant because it was just high needs. And out of that, God showed us what our purpose was. So even as we're walking through this season, yes, it's been hard figuring out live streaming, and we're already doing that, but figuring out how do you keep connected with people. But our people, their connection is less through Jason's ability to preach or our worship team's ability to have amazing worship. And we're very blessed. Thank you, by the way, Spencer, for doing that with Seth. That was super cool watching you guys. But they know that the DNA of us is serving. That's who we are. And so when we're in the middle of this, we still have opportunities to serve. But even on the other side of this, they're going to gather back with us, not because the bald guy can preach. They're going to gather back with us because their DNA, like they believe in the DNA of who we are. Yeah. And so like 12 years ago when we started the church, it was before anybody was really calling their church services gatherings. But we did that on purpose because we don't want people to think that's service. Coming together isn't service. We gather and then we go and serve. It's not the same thing. And so, after that, I'm not saying there were other churches that were saying that as well, but for us, we were very pointed in saying that because we wanted people to understand because sometimes people get in their minds, my act of worship or of giving is me just giving my time to come to church. Well, that's not true. Like we're coming to get built up so that we can go and do what God's called us to do. That's not our calling, is to come and sit in church. Our calling is much bigger than that. And so I'm hopeful. I'm seeing a lot of churches start to figure out how can we look for needs and meet them. Yeah. And I think in that, and that's the thing, is there's so many different ways that churches can serve. I think there's just a power that if we'll not just get back into, okay, good, this is over, let's go back.
Right.
But instead, let's open our eyes to our community and see what the needs are that aren't being met, and how can the church step into those needs.
Wow. That's really, really good. So again, from the outside, just viewing what you guys have done these last 12 years, it's incredible. Not taking this as just asking you to pat yourself on the back, but just you've done it. You've had the vision, whether it's shoes, backpacks, Easter egg hunts. Like if you guys have been there, without feeling like you're patting yourself on the back, can you just give us some ideas? What have you seen creating a vision of serving actually look like? How does that actually get carried out in your church?
So I think it starts with when you just, like, we started with small. Everything we did was small and seemed insignificant. But as we did that, what happened is we started to attract people who would begin to dream. So we would have people, and you know Donnie Brickyard. Donnie started coming to our church. He came and he said, hey, I'd like to do a boxing club. Well, I'd never heard of a church doing a boxing club before. But as we've kind of made a point to say yes to everything until there's a reason to say no to it. Mm-hmm. So we started the path, and that became this amazing hour. We have adults who are married that go to our church now who are not believers until they did boxing at River of Life. Wow. And they got saved through that. And what's happened is we've created what I would consider, and it's not me and it's not Shannon, it's just the atmosphere that's been created over 12 years, is a place where dreams can grow. So when people come and say, I feel like we need to have a food truck and feed kids in the summer, the answer is yes, and let's dig into it. Mm-hmm. And then as we dig into it, it may come that they give up on it and they decide not to do it, and that's fine. Or we may see a real reason why it won't work. But we always try to start with a yes, because then people are allowed to dream a little bit. And then also it puts the onus on them a little bit. Because a lot of times what people will do, Kyle, you're probably already fully aware of this, they'll come and say, we think that we should have this. Yeah. Go with it, and they try and hand their dream to you. Yeah. And so one of the things that we always will say is if somebody comes and says, hey, we think there's a need, it's kind of a catchphrase at our churches, don't show me the hole in the wall unless you brought the spackle. In other words, if you're going to point it out, then that means God's showing it to you for a reason. Wow. So you need to step into that and you need to do something about it. And we'll come alongside you. We'll totally help you. But I'm not going to own it. I got enough on my plate. I don't need to. God hasn't given a dream for me to do to you. Mm-hmm. If he's given it to you, it's for you to do. Okay. And we'll partner with you in it. But out of that, things have grown and come alive that I never would have thought of. Like our furniture ministry is one of our biggest ministries that we have. We furnish about 300 houses a year. And out of that was never a dream of mine. It was a high school student's dream. And he started it, and we started working with it, and we have a warehouse full of furniture, and that goes out every other weekend, and they deliver furniture. It's crazy. I never would have even thought about the boxing club. I never would have thought of, wow. But just being in a position where you say yes to things, and then start walking it out.
Wow, that's incredible. It's inspiring. We're walking through like core values as we're starting this church, planting this church, and a word that's really strong for us is empowerment. And then to take empowering people, not just in like their skill sets, but empowering their dreams of service, takes it to a whole nother level that isn't natural for me, that I wish was more. But that's just so powerful to take the culture of empowerment and the culture of service and dreams and bring them all together. And how do we empower those dreams is just, that's powerful. And you guys, again, just so admirable of all the ways you guys have met so many needs in the community. What do you hope that what you've seen, maybe the church at large has maybe adapted, shifted? What have you seen happening in these last 2 months that you hope sticks?
I think what I've seen is a lot of churches are leaning on each other a little bit more. Like just seeing pastors call each other and ask for, we're going to ask for help with live stream stuff and outreach stuff. And we've asked for help in some different areas. And I think just all of a sudden, it's some of the walls, I think, have come down to churches. And I think I hope that sticks. I hope we don't move back to the place where it's, mine and me, and I'm going to hold on to my stuff and I'm going to keep my secrets to myself so that I can be more successful than you can be, and all that stuff. I hope that sticks.
Yeah. That's awesome. So incredible. We're about an hour. We're going to wrap this up. Can
I say one more thing?
Yes, go ahead. Yeah.
I just want to talk to your church for a minute.
We would love that. Please do.
and not to go too deep into this, but I told this to both Spencer and Linnea, and I also said it to you, Kyle, but I want your team to hear it as well. I've watched you guys over this year, and I know it's been a crazy ride, a crazy year. I told you guys during I think it was early in the summer, that I've been watching from a distance, just watching what God's doing in you guys, but watching the way you handled adversity. And we are big fans of Anchor Church. We are big fans of this team that's sitting in front of us. We are, you could have handled things in so many different ways, but you handled it in a way that our Father is happy with you, and he's going to honor what you are doing. And we're super blessed to call you friends, and we want you to know that we're here. If there's anything we can do to help you, we will do it. We believe in you. We believe in the calling that God has on you guys' lives, and we're super excited just to see what God's going to do in the years to come.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot, means the world. And man, we love you guys as the Tons, but we love River of Life. So grateful for you guys and the example that you've set, and how you are just showing the character of Jesus to anyone and everyone. And it's really, really special. So grateful we get to partner with you guys. This Saturday and Sunday, you're doing drive-in. Is it also going to be streaming?
Yeah, we'll be streaming as well. Yep.
And is that on you guys' Facebook, or what's the best place to?
It is on our Facebook. Yep. And it's on our app. My son, who's our youth pastor, is now trying to figure out how we're getting that onto Instagram, because he said Facebook's for old people. So we're working on that. People that go to bed at 9 o'clock apparently, or whatever.
This is late.
Thanks, Linnea, for yawning. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm like so.
That's so cool. What time on Saturday?
We do 6 o'clock on Saturday. Yep.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, I'd love to check out, see what you guys are doing, be able to. Oh, no, online.
Okay.
We won't take up a parking spot,
Yeah.
but we'd love to see.
We're all coming. So
Just take the front row. Just get out of here, remember? That's too much. No, we'll watch online. I'd love to see how you guys facilitate, and it's fun to see just the creativity of everybody, and that's really, really special. So, so cool.
Thanks for having us
Thanks
on.
for joining us tonight. Tuck, you can sign off the YouTube. Thanks everyone for watching, whether you watched it live or going to check it out later. Thanks for giving us an hour of your time.